Hello, everyone. Welcome to Lena's Adventures Small Talk. I'm Regina Alston, founder of Lena's Adventures. I am so happy for you all to be here. Today, we got a great guest today. We have a great show. The whole show is from last week. We're kind of going on from the first show, which was aging out of foster care. And then the second show was about imagining family. And now today we have the show is called Fostering to Adoption. So I'm so excited to have Lampley-Laster here. She's going to be talking about her journey through fostering to adoption. Hello, LeAnn. How are you? And welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
So, LeAnn, we are so excited to have you on the show today. And we're going to be talking about fostering to adoption. I want to know, and the viewers want to know, can you share with us what fostering to adoption means to you?
So, what that means to me is just being able to be available and ready for if a child needs a place to stay. And if they need a place to stay, then if it comes to the point where they can't go back to their birth family, then they'll be able to make your home a permanent home. And so for my journey, actually, I started out through One Church, One Child. I used to work for one of the church that I was going to, and we got a notice about One Church, One Child. And so the thing that really struck me with the bishop that started that, it was actually an African-American bishop, I think in the Catholic Church, who started that. There was an agency, a fostering agency that came to him, and, they were trying to get foster parents through the church. And so, at that time, this was a while ago. And at that time, they had people saying, like, people weren't into fostering. They didn't want to take nobody's kids into their home. And so the guy at the foster agency, he looked at the bishop and he told him, all right, don't you be upset when we don't take care of the children, when we're coming to ask you and you guys are turning us down. And so from that pricked his heart. And that's when he started One Church, One Child. And so I ended up getting involved because it came to our church, and that struck a chord with me. Like, well, how are we going to get mad if we're the church and we're not helping? We're not doing what God has called us to do, which is go be with the orphans and be with the widows. So if we're not doing that, how can we get mad because the state is not doing it? And so I grew up, it was only me and my brother, and we were 10 years apart. So I basically was kind of like an only child. And so I came from a big family. And so I wanted a big family. And, because of physical reasons, we weren't able to have children. So when this opportunity came along, I said, well, we might as well try it. And then thinking back on my family history, there were, I had a cousin that adopted. And then my husband and I ended up taking care of one of my cousins who didn't have a place to stay. So we ended up taking her in when she was 3, and she stayed with us until she was 12. So, and we had temporary custody of her. We went the family route the first time. So we have technically been foster parents for a very long time. We were fostering before we even started officially fostering. So that was one of the reasons that got us into it, is because we wanted to fill a need. We saw a need, and we wanted to fill a need, and we wanted to help children in need.
Amen. So can you tell us the process? First of all, can you tell us how many children have you fostered?
So here's the thing. We have fostered, we're no longer foster parents, only because we don't have any more space. So we took in, we're at our limit as far as children are concerned, unless my husband will allow me to get a bigger house. So, and so actually what happened was we, so we fostered for like around 12 years. And I'm trying to think, like, overall, we probably fostered, we had like maybe 5 cases that were long-term. And so that's why we really didn't foster that many children, because a lot of the children, fortunately, unfortunately, In my opinion, unfortunately, a lot of the children that came with us stayed with us a long time. One of our cases, we had him off and on until he was like 5. So we had cases where there were multiple children and they would stay with us for like close to 2 years. And that's like, in my opinion, that's way too long for a child to be in foster care. So, so around about, I would say total, even with like respites and stuff, I would say we've done about 20 children.
Wow.
And a lot of them were sibling groups. And a lot of them were little boys. We had a lot of little boys that came in our household, which we've never had a quiet moment in our house
Wow.
with
Yeah.
the little boys. But yeah, so I would say close to 20 children we fostered, and we've adopted 3.
Wow. Awesome. So what happens to the children that you foster? When is the time up that where do they go after you're done fostering? Do they go back to their parent?
It depends. We've had several cases that have gone various places. Our very first case, it was 2 little boys and they were placed with their grandmother. We've had a case, we had a case where we got her straight from the hospital. She was placed with a family friend. We've had some that have gone back to parents. We've had some that have gone back to birth parents, but then have come back into care and then went to other foster homes because we didn't have space or what have you. So it just depends. It depends on the situation. In the ideal situation, they would be reunited with their birth families, because like my model the whole time while I was a foster parent was, they are not mine until that birth certificate changes. So even up until the court date, anything can change. And we've had that. We had the night before custody was supposed to be, they were going for permanent. And the night before, because it was various caseworkers, the night before they changed it to reunification. So that's one thing that I do want to caution anyone who's thinking of getting into foster care. If you're getting into foster care, then remember that child is not yours. You're to love that child, but that child is not yours until that birth certificate changes. I feel like sometimes agencies are so excited or so driven to get foster parents that they sometimes set our foster parents up to fail. Wow. Because they don't prepare them for when that child leaves, especially if you're doing babies, because people love babies and they're oh so cute and they're this and they're that. But the term of foster means it's temporary. So that is not permanent. It's temporary. So you're just to do your part in that child's village until that child moves on to wherever their permanent placement is going to be. Because, you know, as African Americans, we always talk about it takes a village. Yeah. Well, when you come into foster care, you're being part of that child's village. And that village doesn't mean that you're always going to be mom or you're always going to be dad. You may be just friend, or you may be cousin, or you may be auntie, and that's okay. That child still needs you. And so whatever your part is in that village, then you have an important part and that child needs you. So don't get discouraged, but also don't think, oh, this is my baby and I'm keeping this baby. Wow. Your job as a foster parent is to help that birth parent to do what needs to be done to do what's best for that child. I had the one case that we had for the longest time. So we had him from when he was 6 months until he was 22 months. And then they reunified with mom. And so at that time, we gained a relationship with mom. And so he went home. Mom was pregnant. Mom had another baby. And so we were going back and forth, helping mom, you know, babysitting for mom. And the relationship that we had established was so good with mom that when mom had got in trouble and they were going to take the kids, mom called me first. And she said, well, can you come take my babies because the agency's about to come and get them again. And I said, you know, I have to, because I was still a foster parent. I told her, I said, I do have to let them know that you contacted me, but they can come back here. And so that's part of being a foster parent, that you build those relationships with birth parents too, because those birth parents, yes, I adopted 3 children. I adopted them from Mahoning County Children's Services, but I know that they have birth families, and that's okay. And so my oldest, I do have some contact with his birth family. And then my 2 younger ones, we still do sibling visits because all of their children have been adopted out, but we do sibling visits because I still want them to know their family, because the birth family is still important. No matter what we may try to do, what we may try to believe, or yada, yada, yada. But that DNA is that birth family's DNA. And so that's important to that child, for them to know their birth family. And so for me, it's always been a mission that I get as much information as I can, because, you know, once when they come into children's services, and once you adopt through children's services, those records are sealed. And so the only one that can get them are the parents. So even when the child, it may be different for other counties, but as far as Ohio is concerned, the only person that can get that information is the birth parents, because they consider that case the birth parents' information. So even when the child is 18 and they birth out and they age out, they don't have access to that information. So for me as an adoptive parent, I gathered as much information as I could, so that when that time comes, because I'm not going to be in denial and act like it's not going to come, because it is. And we are very open with our children. All 3 of our children know that they're adopted. It's not a taboo word. It's not, oh my God, like a foreign word. No, they know. Everybody knows what that means. I have a 13-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 3-year-old. And we just use it in appropriate, age-appropriate language. But they know what that means. Now, even though my middle son looks a whole lot like my husband, but still, and I told my husband, I said, you know, it's so amazing, because from day one with our middle son, as soon as he came into our household, he absolutely adored my husband. Like I told him, I said, you know, when he gets older, if somebody tells him that you're not his dad, he probably gonna fight them, because it's like, that's my dad. I don't want no mess. But it's like, I still feel like that's important for them to have.
Now, so when you got him?
So our 13-year-old was 2 going on 3.
Oh, wow.
Our middle son, our 4-year-old, he was 15 months. Wow. And then our baby girl was 6 months when we adopted her. Wow. Now the 2 younger ones have the same birth mom. They have different dads, but they have the same birth mom. Wow. And then my older son, but both sets of my children, my oldest and the 2 younger ones, are sibling sets of 6. Oh, so wow. They both have sets of 6 siblings. So my older son, his oldest brother is with his biological grandmother, and that's the sibling that we still have some contact with. The other siblings have been adopted out. And then for my 2 younger ones, all of their siblings have been adopted out to different families. But I make it my business to keep in contact with all of those families, so that my children will know their siblings. And so that we will, so like I said, when that question comes up, they'll be able to have somebody to be able to answer it for them.
Wow, that's awesome. So so can you share with the audience, what are the steps? I mean, how hard was it to go through the process, first of all, for fostering and then adopting? I know they have classes. So how long did you have to go to class? Like, share with the audience, how long was the process?
It's been so long, I can't remember exactly how long the classes were, but I know there were 12 sessions of the classes to initially get licensed. And then once you, the process of getting licensed as a foster parent, you have to do, there's paperwork that you have to fill out. They have to come into your home and assess your home to make sure that you have, beds, and you have adequate space, you have safety things in place, you have to have like fire extinguishers. And for Mahoning County, they supply those things for you. So like they'll supply the fire extinguishers for you. But like you have to have beds, you have to make sure you have beds for the age range that you're that you are fostering to adopt for. And then they will come, like you have to do a fire inspection. So you have to have the fire inspector come in to make sure all your locks and everything are up to code. You have to have fire extinguishers. You have to have the fire smoke alarms. They also make sure, like if you have any firearms, that you have those safe in lock boxes. If you have any prescription, if you have any medication, they make sure that that stuff is locked up. So just making sure that you have safety things in place, that your home is as safe as possible. And then you have to do, I don't know if they still do this, but we had to do psych evaluations. So we had to go to a psychologist, and they had to approve us for saying that we were stable to do that. You also have to show that you are financially stable. You don't have to have a lot of money, but you just have to show that you can cover your household expenses. Right. You do get a stipend for foster care, but that can't be your sole source of income. You have to show that you have another source of income that you'll be able to, supply your needs. And I know sometimes, especially with African Americans, we don't like people in our business. It's not that entailed. It's not that detailed. They just, you give them the numbers and you and they just, make sure that they add up. You're not giving like your W-2s and all that stuff. You're not. They're just making sure that you have adequate funds to supply, to take care of yourself. And then after they do all that, then the home finder will put all that information into, it used to be SACWIS. I'm not sure if that's the same system, but they'll put all that information into the system for the state of Ohio. And then once they put that in, then it will issue you a foster care license from the state, but that comes from the state. And so those are the steps that you have to do for Mahoning County to be licensed as a foster parent. And then you can do three things. You can be foster care only, you can be foster to adopt, or you can be adoption only. Okay. So those are the three categories that you can have in Mahoning County. Now they tell you, and once again, this is because they're trying to get foster parents. They do tell you, like, if you're going to be adoption only, that is easier for you to get to adoption if you're foster to adopt. And so when we decided to get licensed, I felt like it didn't make sense for us to be foster only, because if we've had this child for 2-3 years and then they become eligible for adoption, we're not going to want to send them away. Yeah. So we were going to keep them. But the peculiar thing about our case is none of the children that we adopted, we fostered. All of them came from another foster home that was not able to keep them. Right. Like our oldest, he came to us from our home finder because she said, there's this little boy that I think would be perfect for you guys. And that's how we got him. And I will say, being transparent, I will say, like, because once you are licensed, you have to do 40 hours of continuing education. And for those who are like professionals, like lawyers and accountants and stuff like that, the CPE courses that you have, social workers, classes that you have to take. So foster parents have to do the same thing. We have to take classes every 2 years. That just keeps us up on information, trainings. They do a lot of trainings, which are awesome trainings. All kinds of things, communicable diseases, how to deal with difficult behaviors, because that's another thing. In foster care, you cannot do corporal punishment with kids. So you can't hit them or nothing like that. You have to find different ways of disciplining. And so they give you training and all that stuff. You have to do CPR classes too. And so when I was going to those trainings, it was getting a little frustrating to me, because I would hear, because you go around the room and you introduce yourself and say you did foster or whatever. And I would always hear these people saying, oh yeah, we fostered with this child for 2 years and then we were able to adopt them. Or we fostered this child for 6 months and we were able to adopt them. And that never happened for us. So It was so frustrating, because it's like, well, what are we doing wrong? And we would have kids for a long time. Like our first, like I said, that one case, we had him for 22 months. He went home for a year, came back to us for another 22 months with his sister, and went home again. So it was like, what are we doing wrong? But all I can say is that God really moved in our situation, because every child that came to us, I feel was for us, because it took us 7 years from when we adopted our first son to get our second son. And like I said, from day one, we did respite with him. We didn't foster him. We did respite for him. And as soon as he came in our house and we did respite, he was stuck to my husband like glue. He was right at his legs. He just wanted to be right wherever he was. And so then when he went back home from the respite,
can you tell people I'm sorry, can you share with people what respite is?
Yes, what respite is. I keep saying that like people know, I'm sorry. Yeah. So respite is when a foster parent needs a break, or they're going on vacation, or they're going somewhere where the foster child can't go, then they will go to another foster home. And so it's a temporary placement. So sometimes it can be for a week, sometimes a couple of days, sometimes a weekend, just whenever foster parents need a break. That's one good thing about foster care that we miss with adoption, is that you do have that opportunity to say, hey, you call the caseworker and say, hey, I need a break, or I'm going here, I'm going there, and I need someone to watch the children. So that's what respite is. Okay. So so we did respite for my second son, and then we did it a couple times. And then like after the third time, she said, well, he's going to be up for adoption. And I said, okay. Now she got him from birth. She got him straight from the hospital. And I'm like, well, you don't want to keep him? And she was like, well, no, because I have another child that's a little difficult. And she was like, no, I'm just not able to keep him. And I said, okay, well, we'll apply for it. I mean, I don't know. We just had rest before, and we didn't have him that long. And so God really moved on that situation and opened that door for us to be able to adopt him, because he had, at that time, he had 3 older siblings that were already adopted out. And normally they try to keep those siblings together. So if one of those other families would have tried to get him, they could have taken him, because he was the only one that we had of that sibling group. And so the whole time they kept asking me, well, if he has another sibling, would you adopt? And I was like, well, yeah, I guess, not thinking of anything. And they were like, well, they just kept asking the whole time. And I'm like, okay, yeah, of course, if he has a sibling, we will. And then a couple months later, they were like, well, there's another baby. And I'm like, oh, okay. So at that time, she had went to another foster home because we were in the process of adopting him. And I said, well, and once again, she came straight from the hospital to that foster home. And I said, well, if they don't want to keep her, then of course she can come here. And so they didn't want to keep her. And so we ended up a year later adopting his baby sister. Wow. And so in the process of that, there was another baby born. And I was like, whoa, pump the brakes. Right. Because at that time, there were some physical issues with baby girl that we didn't know, what was going to happen with that. And so I'm like, that would just be too much for me to take on him and her too. But she's fine, and their brother is fine. He went to another good family. So yeah, so that's how God moved on our situation. So I just wanted to encourage someone who may be seeing this and who was in a situation where we were, that you were frustrated because you kept seeing everybody else adopting kids and adopting babies and all this other stuff, or adopting children that were in their homes, and then yours keep getting taken away. God, if this is what God has for you, God has a baby for you. God has a child for you that's being made specifically for you. And like I said, just the prayers that I had about my children and having children, it really helps me with my 2 younger ones, because like I said, the baby boy loves my husband, and just idolizes him and even acts like him. So it's just encouraging to know and to look back on our situation and see how God truly moved on that.
Well, it's amazing how God just allowed you all to just have the heart for this. I talk to different agencies, because I work with, and I'm connected with different agencies, and a lot of people don't have the heart for it. I'm not trying to be funny. Some people do it for the check, or some people do it for, I don't know what other reasons, but you have to have a heart for children, and you have to give these children love. And I think one of the good things is, because you're a Christian and that you love God, that helps, because you have to, that's in the word. the Bible tells us to take care of babies and widows, and you know, and I think, when you love the Lord, it allows you to love children, and it'll allow you to give that love out, because I have heard of children that didn't have such a good experience in foster homes. And and that's the sad part. So we need a lot of people like you and your husband out there who really have a heart for these children and who wants children. And I love that you said don't give up on the adoption, because you felt like, why is it not happening for me? But what God has for you is for you, and I believe that. So that's awesome. So another question I want to ask: is there things in the system that you think that the system can do better for the parent? Because what I hear a lot of times, there's not a lot of help for you all,
For foster parents.
for foster parents.
Okay, so here's and I think this is funny because I was just, when we ended, I talked to our home finder about this, because shortly after that I saw the movie Losing Isaiah. Well, I seen it, but I was watching it like right after we had finished, like we had closed our license. And I thought, and it came to me, and I told my home finder this at the time, I feel like there needs to be a liaison. There needs to be a liaison between foster parents and the agency and birth parents, because there are so many things, because caseworkers are supposed to be there to try to find a place for the kid, whatever the best place that they legally can put them, if it's back with the birth family or it's back with the foster parent, wherever it is. But there needs to be someone who is totally not biased and just there to filter feelings through. Because I say this, and I'm going to probably reference that a lot, the case that we had where it was 5 years, the communication broke down between birth mom and us when Job and Family Services sent her a child support letter. And so mom was not, she didn't understand. And so she thought that we had sent that to her. And I could not get her to understand that we didn't go after her. We were not coming after her for child support. And so she just got that in her head. And from then on, she just turned on us. And so she wouldn't let us see the kids, wouldn't talk to us or nothing. And I feel like if there was somebody in there that would have been able to talk to her and say, hey, this is not what happened. This is something that legally Job and Family Services does every time. It's not against you. It's nothing that the foster parents did. This is just something they do. And I feel like, and I felt that same way with that movie. Like if there was somebody in between that didn't have a stake in the game, that would have been able to say, hey, look, she's had your child for however long. That baby is not taken away from you as birth mom, but that mom nurtured your son. And so that's all he knows. He's not doing anything wrong. She's not doing anything wrong, and neither did you. So if it was somebody that would be able to mend that relationship between those parties, because when you go to training, of course, the book training says, oh, we do this and we're a team and yada, yada, yada. It's so not like that. Like, it's not like that. When you get into it, it's not like that. Wow. So I feel like if it's somebody, and that's what I told my home finder, I said, I will be that person. I will be that person to be there, that voice of reason in the midst of emotions. Because when it comes to children, and then when it comes to an attachment with children, there's a lot of emotions going on. Absolutely. And especially when you have people that feel like this person should have did this, or this person should have did that, or they don't deserve kids. It's time out for that. And you will get a lot of that when it comes to fostering. So at the end of the day, it's like you have to do what's best for the kids. And that's where my mind has always been, is to do what's best for the children. And sometimes I feel like legally they're not able to do that because they have to go by what the law says. But yeah, I feel like there needs to be a liaison between everybody.
Yes. And I want to say I'm sorry, but I can't see any comments and I don't know why. So I don't know if anybody's asking any questions, but um I don't know why I'm not seeing any comments. So another thing I wanted to ask, hold on, I'm trying to make sure that we don't have any comments that I'm missing because I don't see them on my end.
I don't see any over here either.
Oh, okay. So as you adopted the three children, do you have the support still of outside help or no? Once you adopt them, you're on your own. Is that it?
You're pretty much on your own.
Okay.
And that's
I think
another
that
thing that I
scares
would,
people.
yeah, I think that would be another I think that would be another added bonus to it. um you have to advocate a lot for your children, and actually I'm in the midst of advocating for two of my children now, because of some behavioral issues. So they do have something, some states, and I know Ohio has it, they do have like post adoption services where they'll pay for things. But when it comes to actually, just like I was saying, like the respite, like they have it, but you have to search for it. It's not as easy as it is when you're in foster care. Like when you're in foster care, you just call your caseworker and it's like, hey, I need help. And then they make it happen. But when you adopt, that kind of goes away. You have to kind of find that on your own. You have to kind of get that base on your own. We were blessed with an awesome family and an awesome church family that helps us, and that, fills in that gap somewhere, somewhat, to help us. But yeah, and that's another avenue. That's another reason why I try to keep in contact with like the sibling group and stuff like that, so that I am that resource for them too. Because our siblings, all of my children's siblings are with Caucasian families. And so your mom said I'm answering all the questions. Great information.
Oh, yeah, I seen that now. Yeah.
So it's like, so for, because they might not have access to African Americans. And that's another thing. When you adopt, and you adopt across racial lines, you need to make a point of keeping them where their culture is, to help them at least to be able to see some people that look like them.
Right.
And so that's one of the reasons why I keep in contact with the sibling group, but also to help them.
So Carrie Adams Pear, hi Carrie. She says, do they give background information on the children? Do you know why they are taken from the home? Do they tell you all that?
Yes. In our county, they do tell you as much as they know.
Okay.
But they do let you know as much as they know, because sometimes, people, that's a difficult situation, so people are not always honest. So so they try to build a relationship with birth parents so they can, know. I mean, originally, like, definitely once it happens, they tell you what happened to get them to that place. But then all the background stuff that goes on, or that may have happened to that child, you might not know. You'll figure that out. You'll find that out over time. But yeah, they do tell you what happened, like what the situation is, so you're aware.
Hello, Patricia Coleman. I'm seeing some questions and answers. I know we don't have a lot of time, but this has been so informational. I think I pray that someone can go back and watch this, and because this will be on the website, so you can go back and watch it over and over. Carrie Adams says thank you for the information, but this was great. This was a great. Sometimes I wish it could be longer, but because we have it's so much information. But I'll bring you back on, and we'll talk some more about it.
Absolutely.
Because this is so important. But all the questions that you answered were awesome, and this is so informational for people who are thinking about fostering, or people who are thinking about adopting, or and they just don't know the steps. So they want to. A lot of times, people want to hear from people that have done it. And you have done it, and you have done a great job. I mean, to adopt 3 children is amazing, especially today with children having difficulty behavior and different. I know my mom couldn't take 3 of me. She probably couldn't have took 3 of me. She's like saying something, but she couldn't have took 3 of me because of the.
But it is awesome. It is rewarding. It is not. I mean, it is. You will have more better days than bad days.
Yeah, and and then you never know what they'll grow up to be. So
Exactly.
God
Exactly.
is good, and I just want to thank you and all our viewers. And it's so sad because now more people are getting on, but it's a 30-minute segment. I mean, we could go a little longer if people have more questions and stuff, but I think this is so important because November is National Foster Care Month. And so this is why I'm having these shows, because the need for foster parents and so many children out here that are looking for homes, forever homes, and it's just not enough. Not enough people. I don't know if people are afraid or people don't have the means to take the children, but it's a big problem right now. Like, I think bigger than before. I mean, thousands and thousands. I know here in Virginia there is.
Yeah,
And
Ohio's the same way. It's just a lot of, just with the drugs and everything, it's a lot going on. But they do offer assistance. You do get medical coverage for them. Even if you're a grandparent that's taking care of a young child, of your grandchildren. Now they're even trying to get back into that, because when we first got into it, they did have a grandparent assistance and then it went away. But now, because of the influx, now they're also trying to assist grandparents and who are taking care of their grandchildren as well. So yeah, there is definitely a need. There's definitely a need, because we need our village. We
we
need our
need it
village.
all. Yeah, and then so many young girls are having children, and their mothers were young, and there's nothing being taught. So it's just going from generation to generation to generation, and we have to step in and just be there for these children that didn't ask to be here. So great job for you. Thank you for being on. I would love to have you come back too next month so we can finish talking about this. We didn't even get to some of the problems that you face, as being a foster parent and adopting the children, because I'm sure there's some things you have to go through, for behavior or school. And I know a lot of people would like to hear that. But I also want to tell you all, next week, mark your calendars. Next week, my son will be on here, and we're going to be talking about overcoming drug addiction. And the reason I want him to come and share his story is because sometimes when you're adopted, you don't know your background, your history. You don't know. And sometimes we question, I never been on drugs. His father never been on drugs. Like, where is this coming from? So, sometimes you question yourself, like, wait a minute, what's going on? But if you don't know your history or where you really come from, it becomes a generational curse that needs to be broken. So I'm going to have my son on next week talking about how he overcame drug addiction and share with you all. But I thank you all for participating. I thank you all for tuning in. Go back and watch the show. They're available, all of them. And we have so much more to come. And we'll have Miss LeAnn Lassiter back on and share some more things. And we want to thank you for being on the show. And I would like to get your Cash App, because sometimes it's hard. So if anybody wants to, I'll put it out there before we close out. If you just want to sow a seed, because give back to, your seed will be in good ground. A lot of times it's hard to take on children and to adopt children, and you have to have the means for them. And sometimes it's just nice for someone to just say, hey, I'm just going to sow a seed. So we're going to ask you to give that to me at the end, and I'll put it up, and hopefully we'll get somebody to sow some seeds for you. But thank you all for joining me today. And thank you, Miss Lassiter, for being on the show. I'll put it up on my Facebook, so I'll get with you to get your Cash App, if you don't mind me putting it up on the video. Yeah, just in case, if you just want to sow a seed. And, thank you. So the last thing, what do you have for what you want to leave with us?
I just want to leave with you that no matter what happens, no matter how you feel, you are an important part to a child's life. So be that important part. No matter what part you may play, that child needs you. They need you at that moment. So just love on them. Love on them like your parents loved on you, your aunties, your uncles, your cousins, your grandma. love on these children, because that's what they need. They need love, like we all do.
Yes. Amen. So thank you, everyone. Tune in next week. Great show next week. Great show this week. And I love you all. Thank you. Bye-bye.